Welcome to the Heat versus the World podcast. And now, stand up and make some noise for your host, Joel Jacob.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast, a Miami Heat NBA podcast that's not for everybody. And just like always, we got some guests. First, we got Angelina Martel. Say what's up to the people, Ange.
What's going on, guys? It's Angelina Martel. You can follow me on Twitter at Angie Martel with 2 E's for our latest Miami Heat updates.
And then after that, we got well-known author Brian Young. Say what's up to the people, Brian.
What's up?
Jacob _. Now let's get right into the big topics to talk about today. So as you guys know, free agency started a couple days ago, and Miami is already off to a hot start. So let's take a look at some of the players we've added to this roster. As we've anticipated for some time, the Heat finally got their point guard in Kyle Lowry, and then not too long later, they made a move that kind of shocked some Heat fans when they announced that they were going to take on PJ Tucker as well. And then last night, or at least last night for when this pod is being recorded, we went and signed Marquis Morris. So without further ado, I want to ask you guys, how do you feel about these moves the Heat made? We'll start off with you, Ange.
I am really looking forward to this upcoming season, considering all the new players we picked up this free agency. And just, I feel the big three with Jimmy, Bam, and Kyle Lowry is going to be one certainly to not underestimate coming into this season. Because I feel like with Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry's chemistry and how they go way back as like best friends and stuff, I feel them working together is going to be something really fun to watch. And yeah, like you said earlier, I was one of the Heat fans that was extremely shocked to see we got PJ Tucker. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to see the starting lineup with Jimmy, PJ Tucker, Lowry, Adebayo, and Robinson. And as far as Marquis Morris, I can't really comment on him because I didn't really watch that much of him on the Lakers. But I'm glad that he's now joining our squad and we're going to see what he's capable of on our squad. So like I said earlier, I'm looking forward to this season with the new assets we picked up. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about it.
Mm-hmm. Quick thing, with PJ Tucker, I mean, for a couple years now, there's been rumors the Heat were interested in signing a Bucks player in the 2021 free agency. So, we finally got that guy. So I think that's a great pickup for the Heat, in my opinion. What about you, Brian? What do you think?
I think it was a pretty good offseason. I don't think I'm as excited as everybody else. I mean, they got the best available free agent on the market, right? So you can't talk crap about that move. Like, obviously, they're going to be better than last year, which is the goal. You want to improve from what you did the previous year, right? I think that overall, to me, it feels like basically the same team plus Kyle Lowry. Like, I think that swapping out Trevor Ariza and Iggy for PJ Tucker and Marquis Morris is basically a wash. So I still think that there's some extra maneuvering to be done. For me, the most exciting thing is now Duncan Robinson has a bigger contract. PJ Tucker and Tyler Hero plus some picks can maybe be moved mid-season to get a bigger piece. It's a really good start. Off the strength of Kyle Lowry. Right now, I think they're still a tier below where the Bucks and the Nets are. But I think that as it stands right now, they can beat any other team in the East and vice versa. To be fair, but yeah, they've improved, and that's all you can hope for as a fan. So I'll take it.
Right, and then what's your thoughts, Lola?
I'm really excited. We touched a lot on Kyle Lowry in our last podcast and how he improves our point of attack defense. He improves our playmaking. He can unlock a lot in Bam, and he can also shoot. I just think that he makes us a way better team offensively. Spo will really love having a point guard that he could run plays through. I also like PJ Tucker, and I also like the fact that we got Oladipo back. I think our defense got way better. I know, like, Ariza and PJ Tucker, you can call it a wash, but at the same time, we added the bulk defense that we didn't have before, and we stole PJ Tucker from the Bucks, which means that they don't have another guy to guard Jimmy in the playoffs. So it's kind of interesting to see how that turns out when we do face them in the playoffs. And yeah, and I don't have too much to say about Marquis Morris. I wonder how he comes back. A lot of people say Marcus is the better brother, but we will see. Like maybe under Miami's training camp and everything else, he'll come back better. I'm still wondering what else we add on to that. I kind of think that we need a wing defender and maybe a shooter. I mean, I don't know. Like I don't know what we could do with like the minimum and maybe like the BA left. There's still moves to be made, so I'm looking forward to that.
Right, and then what's your take, George? How do you feel about some of these players we signed?
I'm really excited as well for this upcoming season. I share a lot of optimism with a lot of people. It's been years since we've had a real playmaking point guard to facilitate our offense when things aren't going as well. We saw that a lot last year. There were a lot of pieces in our team that on paper we looked fantastic, and even though we wanted to run it back, there were still some really big holes. And the biggest hole, in my opinion, from last year is that when times got tough and stretches without a basket and Jimmy was on the bench, we just didn't have anyone to facilitate the offense. And with Lowry, I think he brings a lot of tenacity on the offensive side. So I'm really excited to see what he can do there. On the other side of the floor, defensively, our pickups have been fantastic. We re-signed Depot, we got PJ Tucker, Morris as well. I'm really happy to see the front office has figured out our problems and has made an attempt to fix it in the best possible way, because with our team last year, the pieces that we had didn't really, you really couldn't expect what they were going to do on any given night. So players like PJ Tucker, you know what you're getting. You're going to get strong defense. You're going to get that tenacity. Same with Marcus Morris. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see that what we can do, what Spoelstra can do with his team moving forward. And I think it's important as well that we didn't really give up two of our most important pieces in Hero and Robinson. So if we did have to make a trade mid-season, it's there. The pieces are there to move, and as long as we stay versatile, then it's going to be a good season.
Right. I personally feel very happy about the moves the Miami Heat made. I mean, we got some tough guys, on this team. I kind of like it. And, while we did make some very intriguing moves, adding these new pieces to the team, I also feel like we should focus on some of the guys we're bringing back as well. We got Jimmy Butler coming back on that big extension. Then you got the dead man himself, Dwayne Deadman is coming back too. And I just got to say, I'm very happy that, he basically told, who was it? The 76ers to back off. You love to see that. Then you have Duncan Robinson, as you guys mentioned, coming back for $90 million, 5 years. And I think that gave him like the most expensive contract. I guess he's like the most paid player in out of the undrafted players in NBA history or something like that. I don't know that statistic 100%. Then also, as announced today, Victor Oladipo is coming back to a return that I'm really hyped up for. I can't wait to see what he can do when he's fully healthy. And then also some minor re-signs in Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. Can't wait to see what else they can bring to the table as well. So keeping in mind of all of these players we brought back, what's your take on this? We'll start off with you, Brian.
I think there's okay. Yeah, no, like I said, it's basically the same team plus Kyle Lowry. I think it's fine. I mean, they were a playoff team last season, obviously. So, like I said, for me, the biggest thing is that now you have the contracts to match for another guy. I don't think I'm as high on PJ Tucker, mostly because of the age. Like I don't know. I think that we'll have to see if I'm hoping that Marquis Morris can provide really good minutes at that 4 spot so that we're not playing PJ Tucker, the full 82 at starters minutes. But overall, I think this team fits really nicely together. And I think that having that offensive release valve in Kyle Lowry is going to do wonders for this team, because we saw that last year, even though they had a lot of individual poor defenders. The team was really good defensively overall, right? And Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker add to that strength. The real problem was the offense. So I think that they've gotten some guys in that they can really plug and play. And, I think we're going to see a lot less of those offensive droughts where we're basically relying on Jimmy to give us an MVP performance to essentially survive. So I think that, just kind of winning in those margins, not having stretches where, not having those 5-minute stretches where you don't score or whatever, is going to flip the script entirely for this team. And also just having another year of chemistry, I think, is always good. Dedmon provided some really solid minutes at that backup 5 as well, and I think that was sorely missing for most of the season. So it's going to be nice to have that throughout a full 82. But yeah, overall, man, it's a much better team. So they should be really looking at that 3-4 seed as almost a lock, I think.
Right. And what about you, Lola?
So from the re-signed, we obviously re-signed Duncan Robinson and Dwayne Dedmon and Victor Oladipo. I really like the Duncan re-signing. He's been in so many trade rumors the last trade deadline, and we also thought he was going to be included in something right now, and he really looked like he wanted to stay with the Heat. He was like the perfect fit, and we had him involved in our entire defense. Bam had like half of his assists, so I think he understands how important it is to stay with us because we really value him and we really prioritize him offensively. So I really think he took that into consideration, and I'm sure that he was offered more money in other places, but he decided to take a little bit less to stay with us for a longer contract. I think he really does value us and we value him, so I'm really happy. It provides spacing. He's an elite shooter, so I'm happy with Duncan, and I'm also happy with Dedmon because he was such a solid backup center for us this season, and he can continue to back up Bam. He provides that energy. He's cheap. He can shoot threes. I think he's like the perfect backup center for us, and he really surprised me this year. So I'm looking forward to him surprising me again. And as for Victor Oladipo, that was like the happiest signing for me because I've been wanting Victor Oladipo back since the season ended. When he got injured, I was heartbroken, and I really love what Victor Oladipo brings to this team when he is healthy, especially defensively. We already have PJ Tucker and Kyle added to this team, so if you add Victor on top of that, it just makes us such a great defensive team. It just makes us dogs, and I really am happy that we got him for the minimum. That's just incredible considering what he can provide to you when he's healthy. And we also, thanks to Angie, we also re-signed Gabe, Struz. I'm not too I don't really care too much about Gabe and Struz, but because they're just on their minimums, the only thing they can do is provide us value for their contract. So good for them.
Right. And what's your take, George?
Look, I think there's it's a mixed reaction. I was expecting Jimmy to re-sign. I expected Oladipo to re-sign given his injury history. That doesn't mean I'm not happy about it. I think it's really important to make your stars happy. We've learned from our past history that making our stars unhappy really makes us look like a pretty bad organization. So I think it's important to pay your stars. Oladipo's the happy surprise in this whole thing as well because it's important for us to get a return on what we gave away from him. I know it wasn't the biggest package we gave away. I think it was Olynyk and Bradley for him, but at the same time, it's important to get a return on your investment. So when he's healthy, they said I think it was rumored that he's coming back anywhere between December and January. So it's going to be fun to see what he can do for us. He's a defensive presence, and he started to really get into a rhythm. I believe right before he got injured. So I was pretty upset about that as well. Dwayne Dedmon's fantastic. I think if we could take something away from the pretty awful playoffs that we had was that he really did step up a little bit and show us that he can knock down that three and come on and defend at a medium to high level as well. So I think it's great to see him back. Duncan, I'm really happy about as well because I think without Duncan, if you take Duncan away from the team that we have now, you're stretching what you can do on offense, especially from beyond the arc. So, people like Hero and Duncan, they're going to be extremely important for us. So I think Duncan gets the start. So it's going to be fun to see what he can do. Strus is going to be that player that is either going to be, great. He's going to give you 11 and 3 off the bench, knock down a couple threes, or he's going to go 0 for 5, which is exactly what we don't want. But he's going to be used quite a lot, I think, in Spoelstra's system, especially with how much rest he's going to have to give our starters throughout the season to manage injuries and stuff like that. But I think I'm going to give a hot take here. I reckon Gabe Vincent really does step up for us because as a backup point guard, that's what he's going to have to be. I'm not just saying that as a ball handler because we've got plenty of ball handlers. We've got Jimmy, Bam, Kyle Lowry. But Gabe himself, I think he's been with our organization for a long time. He's going to really have to bring the role forward. That's what Spoelstra's wanted for him in the past. And there's no reason why he wouldn't still be on our roster with all the moves that's been done if Spoelstra didn't see something really special with him. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what Spo can do and what these players can do.
And then, Ange, what about you?
Like I said earlier, I'm satisfied with the moves Miami made with re-signing certain players. Like everyone has said so far, I'm happy we re-signed Oladipo for the minimum, considering it was heartbreaking to see him go out so early into his new season with Miami. And I'm excited to see what he's capable of doing this upcoming season with his defensive capabilities and such. And I feel like Spo's going to pay closer attention to Depot, considering how injury-prone he really is and how much of a toll his injury took on our team last season. And to be honest, I feel like if he were to play in the playoffs with us, I feel like we would have gone much farther or even won more games instead of getting swept by Milwaukee. Dedmon, I feel like people aren't really talking enough about how Philly reached out to him and he basically said, back off, I'm not signing with you guys. And considering the role he played last season and stepping up for Bam when he wasn't playing the best and really just proved himself, I really feel like that opened a lot of Miami fans' eyes to really like how great of a player he really is and just the clutch moments he was able to do for our team and just help us out in moments such as that. As for Gabe and Strus, I can't really speak too much on them because they weren't as exciting as hearing, say, the Depot news, the Robinson news, the Dedmon news. But hey, at least they contributed something to our team. Strus delivered great offense in the games that mattered. So did Gabe. So I feel like there can be a couple things they could potentially work on this offseason with Gabe being in Nigeria playing in the Olympics. He's playing absolutely amazing along with KZ and Precious. For Robinson, I am also extremely happy that he re-signed for $90 million 5-year contract. And Joel, touching on what you said earlier, he is the highest paid undrafted player in NBA history. Sorry. But yeah, I feel like because he said that, quote unquote, we didn't cross off all the check marks on his free agency checklist, which was to get paid more, to win, and something else I forgot. But clearly we checked off all his boxes, and Miami took that into accountability and paid him what he's worth, 5-year, $90 million. Considering how great of a player he really is, I feel like that's fair. And for Jimmy signing the max extension, I'm really happy that he did that, and I'm happy that he's going to be with us for the long run, and I'm excited to see how far he's going to go this season.
Right. And then, I want to talk to you real quick. Like, you look at, the players we re-signed in Dedmon, Depot, Robinson, Butler, Strus, Vincent. Like, which of those moves, like, looking at it, like, which one, like, intrigues you the most?
As far as the offseason, obviously the Lowry move was huge. That was the main priority, bringing him in. I thought we could have done a better job filling around the margins, particularly with Kendrick Nunn. I think we could have done better asset management with him as far as keeping him restricted and then doing a sign and trade, getting a trade exception back. PJ Tucker, I think it could have been a cheaper deal, but I do like his physicality, his defensive ability. That's going to be big for us. Oladipo, bringing him back on the minimum, it's a good deal because he's a low risk, high reward. And Marquis Morris, he's a streaky player. Last season he wasn't good, but the season before he was big for the Lakers in terms of their championship run. So we need to hope that we're getting the 1920 version of Marquis Morris and not the 2021 version.
Right, I agree 100%. And while we do look at the players that we signed and those that we re-signed to deals, it's also too important to look at the players who are no longer on the team. You have Goran and Precious, who are obviously both part of the Kyle Lowry sign and trade deal. You have Kendrick, Nunn, and Trevor Ariza, who both were free agents and decided to go to LA. And then Bielitsa, who will be going to the Warriors. And then Andre Iguodala, who, although he has not signed with the team yet, we can more than likely guarantee that he won't be back with the Heat next year. Let's see. So with that being said, what do you guys think about these moves? Think about these losses for the Heat. Like, do you think it will impact the Heat moving forward? Like, what's your take? We'll start off with you, George.
Look, I think it's important to realize that with the fact that we ran it back so hard last year, that it's important to make moves, especially when it doesn't run out. So when something doesn't work out, we have to make changes, and there's going to have to be sacrifices. Now, the loss of Nunn, I agree with Quake. I think it could have been a lot better managed in the long run. Signing it, keeping him restricted and putting him in a side and trade would have been ideal. With Trevor Ariza, I think that we had very high hopes for him, especially after Crowder did such a great job for us in the postseason before. But we had Mo Harkless during the year. He didn't work out. Trevor Ariza came in, and we had better hopes for him. He did perform a lot better than Mo Harkless did in that spot. But I think that for our team to really have been pushed further, he had to have been better. He had to, space the floor better. But what he did bring to us was defense, and that was the most important aspect of his game. Now, replacing him with PJ Tucker, I think it's a very, very good move for the organization, because what he gives you on defense, he'll do that. Like, he can bring better defense than Mo Harkless as well. He's a very, very, very competent corner shooter, and that's what we need from him. The loss of Dragic as well, that's going to be the hardest pill to swallow. He's been such a great servant to the organization for so long. He's paid his dues. We nearly lost him last year. We kept him, so he went on to a better cause. We got Lowry from him as well, so I'm not too upset about that. But yeah, I think with our losses, we have to weigh them with our gain, and I think that we've gained so much more from our losses. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over who we lost, and I'm happy with the moves that the organization made.
And then, Ange, what about you? What do you think about these losses for the Heat?
As for what George just said, going off of losing Goran Dragic, like he said, it's going to be definitely a hard pill to swallow, and he's most definitely going to be missed. And like he also said, he's done so much for the organization for the 7 years he's been here, and just for all the people that said Goran Dragic was washed, y'all just please be quiet, because considering his age, even though he was on the older side, he did so much for Miami that a lot of players on another team wouldn't be able to accomplish at that age. And so I'm just really grateful and thankful for all the things he's done for us thus far. But as for Bielitsa leaving, going to the Warriors, I'm not too upset about that, considering he barely played. He had some good games, but I guess it just wasn't enough to keep him around long term. As for Ariza joining the Lakers, that caught me off guard. I didn't really expect that, and I'm not going to lose too much sleep over that either. He did great things for our defense and offense, but it's not to the point that his presence is going to be missed too much, because we obviously got Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker to make up for that. Kendrick Nunn signing with the Lakers was another one that really caught me off guard. He did great things for Miami, and I feel like as soon as he became an unrestricted free agent, it didn't take too long for the Lakers to pick him up. And I'm surprised. First of all, I don't know where the Lakers are getting all this money from to get all these assets, but that's besides the point. Oh yeah, as well as Precious. I feel like I cut him some slack because he didn't get the proper summer training and off season that all the other rookies got, but he did good things for Miami defensively, and he's playing really well in Nigeria, so I'm happy for him for that. But Toronto's been eyeing him ever since the trade deadline last season, so they finally got what they wanted. And best of luck to him in Toronto, I guess. But as for the other people I've mentioned so far, Iggy, I don't know where he's going to go. I've seen rumors that he's going back to Golden State, which I feel fits him. I don't know how long or how much longer he's going to be in the league for, but best of luck to him and wherever he goes. And just, I have nothing more to say about that.
And then Quake, what's your take?
Yeah, so Lowry replaces Dragic. He's an upgrade at both ends, playmaking, shooting under screens defensively. Tucker replaces Ariza. Ariza's a bit better of a shooter, but Tucker brings more physicality, so that's a plus. I think where we lose is on the wing with Iguodala gone, because we don't really have a true wing stopper. Tucker is more of a four right in today's league, as is Marquis Morris. He really doesn't have the foot speed to guard small forwards. So I think adding a guy like I'm not sure if it's feasible now, but I think adding a guy like Danny Green would be huge. And if not him, we might have to take a flyer on a Kelly Oubre, who, even though he lacks for what he lacks in basketball IQ, he makes up for in athleticism, physical frame, and talent. So I think we need to add another wing. But aside from that, I'm not too concerned about the players we're losing, because the players we're getting back are just as good, if not better, than the players who are going out. So.
Right, and then Lola, what do you think?
I want to first touch on Goran. I love you, Gogi. I'm so sad that you have to go, but we all understood that we were gonna get cutthroat Pat Riley. He had to make space for Kyle Lowry, and the only way to do that was with Goran, because nobody wanted Iggy. So as sad as it is what it is, I guess. But I just want to thank him, because he gave us amazing 7 years, and he gave us the bubble, which was really the most amazing run I have ever seen as such an underdog of a team take on. And it was led on by him. And if he was healthy in the finals, who would have known what would have happened? So in that deal, Precious is also being sent. I think Precious needs better opportunities, and with Bam on our team, he kind of becomes redundant. He's like an undersized big, and we kind of already have that in Bam, and that was kind of the issue. I think with a rebuilding young team, he'll have more opportunities. So I think this is great for him. As for Ariza, I feel like we decided to go on from Ariza because he is a good defender and he is an okay 3-point shooter, but he did not have the size to defend the likes of Giannis. And those are the type of teams that we have to go against in the playoffs at some point. So the addition of PJ Tucker is an improvement over him. So I think like we just let him go in that aspect. And as for Nunn, I'm with Quake on this. That was a bad asset management. We got him for basically, we brought him from the Golden State Warrior dungeon and we built him up to be this player, and he ended up leaving us for the Lakers. Like, I feel like we could have done better with him managing wise, but it is what it is. And for Iggy, I mean, good luck to him, because he's I really feel like he should just retire at this point, because he's really washed, in my opinion. But that's just me.
Mm-hmm. And then last but not least, Brian, what do you feel about all this?
I'm not losing sleep over any of the guys I left, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, I think that, like Quake said, I would like another wing, because I just don't trust Marquis Morris minutes. And when I watched him with the Lakers, he was not a good NBA player. So, I mean, I think he's mostly going to be there to, like I said earlier, like soak up minutes, essentially. Like, don't, he's probably not going to help you, but he might not tank you while you're on the floor. But yeah, like Precious wasn't great for the Heat last season. Like, I actually think it's better for Dedmon to be playing those minutes. Lowry is a massive upgrade over Goran and Nunn at the guard spot. I think PJ and Trevor Ariza overall is pretty much a wash. So yeah, I just, I really don't think that they're going to miss any of the guys that went out. I mean, obviously, like, having a Goran Dragic would be great now. Like, he could play that backup point guard spot and be fantastic at it, but you had to do what you have to do to get Lowry. So I don't know. I'm fine with all the guys that left. I think that hopefully they are better where they are now. I would love an addition like Danny Green, but overall, it had to happen for Lowry to be here, and as a result, they're a better team. So I'm not tripping over it.
Right. And, when you look at all that, there's still available free agents that are out there. As you said, Brian, there is Danny Green. And it leads me into this next topic, as I want to ask you guys, as we do look at the remaining free agents that are out there, who's the next target the Heat should go after? And we'll start off with you for this one, Lola.
I agree with Quake and Brian. We need a wing defender. We also need a shooter. I think Danny Green is perfect. He fills both roles. Kelly Oubre, I saw that online. I would love Kelly Oubre, but I feel like we don't have the money for it. So yeah, and I guess Lou Williams is also available still. So between Danny Green and Lou Williams, one of them should be up for grabs. I personally really want Danny Green. I feel like he was kind of getting all that shit for what he did with the Lakers, but then he came back and he played really well for Philly. But then he was injured in the playoffs. And I feel like if they had him, they would have been better off. So yeah, any wing defender would be great. I also saw Wes Matthews. That's a really interesting person to look at. Any wing defender or a shooter would be amazing for us right now.
Right, and then what about you, Ange?
As for free agents, like Lola said, Danny Green, I feel like she said in LA in the finals, he didn't perform the best, and I feel like that really just didn't do him any justice for his expectations set by fans across the league. And the way he performed in Philly was great, as well as his time in Toronto. But like she also said, him getting injured in the playoffs didn't really help his case. And I feel like if he wasn't injured, it would have done Philly more justice. And not saying they could have beat the Hawks, but anything's possible. Hawks were a very dominant and stacked team last season in the playoffs. But for Kelly Oubre, I don't really have an opinion on him because I didn't really watch the Warriors that much. But if the shoe fits, then go for it, I guess you could say. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about it.
Right, and then Brian?
Like I mentioned, Danny Green. I think another guy out there is Wes Matthews. I know that the Heat looked at him last year. Him and Jimmy are also really close. He wasn't, again, another guy that wasn't really great for the Lakers, but you would hope that he could have somewhat of a resurgence on the Heat. They've revived a lot of guys' careers, so I don't think that that's completely out of the realm of possibility. Kelly Oubre, I feel like he's probably more expensive than the Heat can afford, but I would love him as that starting four. I think that, he hasn't been great defensively, but he has all the physical tools to be, at least a decent defender. And then the last guy I think might draw some interest is Lou Williams, because I still think that bench needs a bit of a scoring punch. Right now, it's basically just Tyler Hero. And maybe he fills that role really, really well, and you don't need a guy like Lou Williams. I do expect Tyler Hero to be a lot better this season. But I do think that if they're looking for some extra scoring punch off the bench, then Lou Williams could be a really, really good option for them.
Right. And what's your take, George?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in Lou Williams. I know people don't give him the credit he deserves on the defensive end, and that's fine. I know he's not the best defender, and he's not there for that. What this team needs now is the scoring punch off the bench. The guy averaged 45% or 44% from three in the playoffs last year. Like he's a bucket getter. That's what we need, especially someone with that much veteran presence to give to us as well. I know we've got plenty of of dogs in the locker room. I think that he'll fit right along. Danny Green as well. So I know people have already said this. He's everything that we need as well. He's a great wing defender. He does his job, and that's what we need. And people that they come in to do a job, and they'll get you the results that you're looking for. And he's been pretty good over the last few years. He's definitely declined from what he used to be, but he's getting up there in age as well. But now me personally, I think it's between Danny Green and Lou Will. And with Lou Will as well, you're also getting another playmaker. You're getting someone that can handle the ball, and take a lot of pressure off Bam and Jimmy as well as ball handlers, and get them more focused on the offensive end is where we need them as well. So yeah, I think for me personally, if I've got to pick one, I'm picking Lou Will.
Right, and then last but not least, Quick, what about you?
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement when we say that Danny Green is the number one guy left. 6'6", shot 40% from three last year on 6 attempts per game. It's exactly what we need, and he plays well in offenses that emphasize ball movement and player movement, such as San Antonio and Toronto. So that's really where he does it best. As far as Kelly Oubre, I would only want him as an alternative to Danny Green should Danny Green sign elsewhere, because Oubre, he does have a lot of baggage. He's somebody who thinks that he's a star even though he's not a star, and that's not really the type of player you want on a team like this that emphasizes high IQ and sharing the ball and whatnot. So I'll take Oubre only as an alternative to Green. Lou Williams, I was thinking about him as the backup point guard, but then I thought to myself, we may just stagger the minutes with Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry so that one is on the floor at all times. So we may not necessarily need Lou Williams because if we bring him in to be the backup point guard, the majority of his minutes are going to be off the bench with Tyler, and that's just going to be a defensive nightmare for us against second unit guards, especially second unit guards who can really score. And then one last name who I just thought of recently, and this might be a surprise, Demarcus Cousins. Now, you can't use Demarcus Cousins against a team like Brooklyn because they're just going to put him in drop coverage. But if you're going up against a team like Boston, who's a smaller team, then you can use him to punish them, because the Clippers did that against Phoenix. They had Demarcus Cousins on the floor, and he was eating Zubac alive. So you can use him against small teams, and you can win those minutes where Bam is off the floor. So I think that might make sense.
Right. A lot of noise was really made by the Heat throughout free agency. And, as we looked at these names, it's clear that there are so much more guys the Heat can go after. And, it's important to keep in mind that Miami is not the only team that's making noise right now. You have other teams in the league that's making some good additions as well. So that leads me to this question. And I want to ask you guys, is there any team out there that has caught your attention with some of the free agency additions they've made? We'll start off with you, Ange.
I'm sure everyone can agree with me in saying the Bulls certainly shocked me, considering they signed Lonzo Ball. DeMar DeRozan was another big name that also Miami was interested in. The Lakers also showed interest in him, but I feel like the Bulls are a good fit for DeMar. And also the Lakers really shocked me with all the assets they picked up, like Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony. Trevor Ariza kind of shocked me, like I said earlier. But I'm sure the Heat, I might be biased, but the Heat also shocked me with a lot of the free agency moves they made. And it's no doubt that the East are now a pretty stacked conference with all the moves that they made this free agency. So I'm excited to see how those three teams perform personally.
And then what about you, George?
Yeah, I'm going to follow off Angie's point. The Bulls have just been fantastic. Their front office has done some amazing things for them, and I think it's going to do a lot for their development moving down the track. Patrick Williams is going to get a lot of help now. He's going to get a lot more mentorship from these players. DeMar DeRozan's a great addition. Following off from that, I think, as much as I don't like to say this, the Knicks have had a pretty good offseason as well. Pairing RJ and Julius Randle with Fournier and Kemba Walker as of recently. I think it's a good team. It's a good team, and the East is being stacked. But on the other side, the Lakers have literally just signed the entire cast of the Expendables. Everyone over 32 is welcome there. So they're doing big things as well. They're stacking their bench. This is going to be a very competitive season. I know we said this as of late. There's a lot of moves from a draft class from a free agency that isn't completely decked out with stars. I think it's a very role player based thing, but which is the most important thing. You look over over general history when it comes to the finals, the role players play a massive role, and they're usually the difference maker between good and bad teams and champions and being close to nothing. So yeah, I think the entire NBA. These organizations have made steps in the right direction. So have the Heat. So it's going to be very competitive.
Right. And then what about you, Lola?
Obviously, the Bulls, they added Lonzo and DeMar DeRozan. I think they made a lot of great moves to try to get Levine to stay. I think he'll be happy with those moves. I'm still kind of skeptical on how great they do because they added Vooch and that didn't do much for them. So it'll be interesting to see. I also think the Lakers just adding everyone, like literally from Melo, Dwight Howard, Nunn and Ariza really surprised me. Also, the one move that really surprised me was Kemba Walker to New York. That's happening right now. Like him getting bought out and going to New York. It was just funny to see. I mean, he can't really play defense, so I wonder how that's gonna go. And another move that really surprised me was, and I was kind of sad about, is Patty Mills to the Brooklyn Nets because I kind of wanted Patty Mills. I felt like he's a bucket getter. And he was giving KD some problems. So I understand maybe KD made that phone call to them to get Patty Mills. Another move that really made me laugh was Andre Drummond to the Sixers. I just wonder how that relationship with Embiid is gonna be like. It's just a bunch of funny moves that were made this offseason.
And just one more thing before I go to the next person is, let's also keep in mind the huge addition the Jazz made for Rudy Gobert's backup. Y'all got Hassan Whiteside over there. Yeah.
You don't speak of his name in a Miami Heat podcast, Joel.
I really thought you were gonna say Rudy Gay.
I forgot you said it.
I was so thrown off when you said that. I thought it was Rudy Gay that you were gonna say.
It was so funny, bro. The fact that that's really gonna be coming off the bench for Rudy Gobert, oh my gosh. But yeah, anyways, Brian, what about you?
I'm of the opinion that the Lakers won the offseason. You trade for Russell Westbrook, and I think at first I was like, that is a horrible fit because they're in talks to get Buddy Hield, and I think everyone was like, okay, that makes sense with LeBron and AD. But then they go out and they sign a million shooters with, I get props to the Lakers front office for saying hey, we're all billionaires. We can afford the tax. It literally means nothing to us. So, I mean, they got a lot of scoring punch off the bench. Their defense is going to suffer a lot, but they also have Frank Vogel and Dave Fizdale there, so I'm not as concerned about it. And AD is amazing. I think by himself will probably make the Lakers at least decent defensively. But there is a ton of shot creating and shooting on that team with passing from LeBron and Russell Westbrook. I don't know. That I think that they are my favorites coming out the West. I don't know if they'll beat the Nets, but I think it's damn close. Especially if they get a guy like Danny Green. That's a tough team to beat. Following them, though, I think the Bulls are really, really fascinating. I think there's some discourse on Twitter over whether or not they'll even over whether or not they'll be that good. But I think the combination of Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan, with Vooch and Levine and Alex Caruso, like, for me, I think outside of the Nets and the Bucks, they can beat anybody. Like, I really think the offense is going to be really, really good. I like the Kemba Walker move for New York. I don't know. I still think that the Heat are a better team than them. Personally, Kemba Walker gets played off the floor in the playoffs because he's really, really tiny. But I think that for me, it's the Lakers, the Heat, and the Bulls. I'm sorry, who have basically won the offseason.
Right. And then, Quick, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think it's impossible to not talk about what the Lakers have done this offseason. They are going to slip defensively, having lost Caruso, having lost KCP. But what you lose defensively with those guards, you gain offensively with the additions of Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk. Taylor Horton Tucker will be another year older with more experience under his belt. So they're going to be among the top offenses in the league next year. They'll be able to score with anyone, and they can send out a lineup with LeBron, Malik Monk, Wayne Ellington, Carmelo, and Anthony Davis. And in that lineup, Anthony Davis is your worst shooter. So the shooting problems that the Lakers did have are now practically solved. Last year that they had lineups where LeBron was the best shooter, and that won't happen this coming year. So I think they've done a fantastic job in the offseason, and there's talks that the Spencer Dinwiddie to Washington trade might expand to like a 6 to 8 team trade. So the Lakers might even get another player out of that. So we'll have to see where that goes. Now, I want to talk about the Knicks next. The Knicks' problem was offense, and they did improve in that area, adding Evan Fournier and then today Kemba Walker for $8 million a year. Kemba is a low-risk, high-reward signing, and Tom Thibodeau is a point guard whisperer. He got the best out of DJ Augustine. He got the best out of Nate Robinson. He got the best out of Kirk Heinrich. So he might be able to get the best out of Kemba as well. And then as far as the Bulls are concerned, they're better with DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo Ball. They're going to be extremely fun to watch. One of the best offenses in the league, and one of the worst defenses in the league, if not the worst. I'm not sure that they're a top 6 team in the East, to be honest. I think if I had to go to pick between them and Boston, I would pick Boston. Simply off the fact that they're led by 2 marquee wings and they can lock down on D. Whereas the Bulls, your best perimeter defenders are Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso. And your wings, you have Levine and DeRozan, neither of whom play any defense. Vucevic, he can't play. He's going to have to play drop in the playoffs. That won't work against a team like Brooklyn. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Chicago matches up with some of the better teams in the East. But that being said, they are a better team today than they were yesterday.
Right. Like you look at the league right now, it's clear that, it's very different compared to where it was last year. I can't wait to see how teams like LA and all of them shape out to be because, moves aren't done. We know that. We're only 2 days into free agency. So, there's probably a lot more that has to be decided for not only the Heat, but for those other teams out there. But, next thing that I do want to talk about away from free agency to close out today's episode is about the Heat Summer League. So yesterday, the Heat played the Lakers, and they won by a score of 80-78. The main star for the Heat last night was none other than Omar Yurtseven, who had 27 points and 19 rebounds. He went 3 of 7 from the three-point line, 11-20 from the field goal range. And, you just love to see that. Then you have guys like Javonte Smart with 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, along with DJ Stewart with 11. When you see stuff like that, you're kind of intrigued. And, the Heat obviously have some decisions that they need to make regarding, who they want to bring onto the roster after the summer league comes to an end. So I want to ask you guys, what do you guys feel about the current summer league and what we saw last night? We'll start off with you, George.
I mean, I think I can speak of everyone just saying that it's so good to see some form of basketball back. So it was really exciting to see the young talent that we brought out from the undrafted team. It was kind of a shaky performance. I'm not gonna lie, we had 19 turnovers in that game, which was it was shocking to see the amount of turnovers, but we still got the dub at the end of the day. But Yerkesteven he was just built different last night. I don't think I've seen a dominant performance in the summer league game like that before. And from a team like ours, that we look at it and say, sometimes maybe rebounding might be an issue. To see someone pull down 19 boards and his name is not Hassan Whiteside, is a really good breath of fresh air. I think a really underrated pick is Marcus Garrett. I think he killed it last night. 6 steals. He was a menace on defense, just ripping the ball out, going back, in transition. His free throw shooting could do it with a bit of work, but I think everyone played quite well. Even Stewart Jr. played well. Even Potter played great as well. So it's fun to see that we've got some decisions to make, depending on how many roster slots we will have for them. But yeah, it's going to be a very tough decision to see who we bring on. But we've got another game against Golden State today, so it's going to be fun to see.
Right, and what about you, Quake?
Yeah, so I think the obvious takeaway is Omer Yurtseven. Watching him play, he's obviously an NBA player. Like you can tell, the eye test isn't something that you can deny. Like when you see something, this person's an NBA player, or this person's not an NBA player. And in Yurtseven's case, that he's an NBA player. He's very skilled. He has post hook, good footwork, drop step, can shoot the three. So he has the complete package. I think he can contribute to us next season. It's all a matter of how many minutes he's going to get, whether he's coming off the bench versus starting and maybe moving Bam to the 4. But I do think he's going to get minutes, maybe 20 to 22 minutes per game, depending on, if Spo wants to play a rookie, which is what he's going to be. And I think we can mold him into a Jonas Valanciunas or a Brook Lopez for us as a center who can score both inside and out. I'm not sure he's going to be able to get much run in the playoffs because he has slow feet and I don't think he's going to be able to switch it on the perimeter. Which is key in the playoffs when you're going up against teams with dynamic guards such as Brooklyn. But for the regular season, I do think that he's going to be quite the player for us coming off the bench or starting.
Right. And it just shows what Miami's capable of doing, with their scouting and everything. It's possible that they might have found another gem that no one knew about. So, we'll see very soon. We'll see who the Heat decides to bring to the roster. So all we can do is just keep watching Summer League and keep watching out for some of these young guys who's ready to show that they belong in the league. So aside from that, as we're getting ready to wrap this up, is there anything else that we should talk about while we're here? I'm going to take the silence as a no, correct?
I mean,
so, here goes.
If I could input something here, I know we were talking about this before. I think coming off the point we just had, where roster spots are such a rare commodity today, especially for our team, where we've got to round out a few people with a few veterans. I just want to ask a few people here. You think Haslam's spot is up for grabs, or do you think that it's just right to bring him back for another season?
I'm going to let y'all talk about that. I mean, for me personally, I feel that, we were talking before we got on about how, let's see, UD has only made 65 mil in 18 years. He
You
definitely
say only as if it's not a lot of money.
It clearly is a lot of money, but at the same time, it's like you look how the NBA is now. I mean, with people getting much bigger money in a contract. Like, bottom line is that I feel that with all the sacrifices UD has made, you could think about, giving him still that roster spot. But it's definitely a tough one because he is definitely a very important person. However, then I know people feel that we could use his spot for someone else, and I personally do agree with that. It's just I kind of see both sides of it, and regarding something like that, I expect the Heat to make the best decision for it. So I'll leave that up to Pat, but what do you guys think? How do you guys feel about UD?
Yeah, I'll go. As far as UD, I think if he wants to be back, the Heat will bring him back. Now, as far as my personal opinion, I'm of the mindset that we should use like roster spots judiciously and not try to waste any. But I do think that UD's veteran presence in the locker room does have value, especially when you're bringing in a rookie big like year 7. There might be things that AD can even teach him, maybe with regards to like post defense and whatnot. But I'm really of the mindset that if he wants to be back, they'll bring him back, and maybe they'll leave one roster spot open in the event of like buyouts and whatnot. But yeah.
I mean, I love UD, and I feel like, to be honest, he just does more off the court as for like pep talks and just like hyping the players up rather than on the court. Because if you're gonna have a 40-year-old that only plays one game out of an 82-game season, then I don't really see a point. I know I'm probably gonna get bashed for that because there's some people that are like, I don't care if UD's 70 and he's still on our team, I don't want to give up that spot. But then again, there aren't many 40-year-olds in the league, and I feel like if Haslam were to return to the Heat, it would be as a member of the coaching staff or just a member of the Heat, just not on their roster. Because like Quick said, he is the next best thing to Heat culture than Dwayne Wade, because I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, he's like the longest player to stick with one team in NBA history, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I'm on both sides of it, that I want UD on our team, but at the same time, roster spots matter. So I don't really have like a definite opinion on it. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm kind of like neutral to the whole situation. But if like Quick said, if he wants to resign, they'll resign him. But if I don't know, if they feel like they need that extra spot, then they're gonna release him. But I don't know. It can go both ways.
I'm with you guys on that. I think like if he wants it, they're probably gonna give it to him. I also am with you guys on that. If it was up to me, I would want to use those spots for our summer league players, because we're already trying to look to add maybe one or two players off of the free agency, and then on top of that, I want to add obviously Omer, because I feel like he has that potential to play next to Bam. I mean, 27 points and 19 rebounds. Like, I understand it's summer league, and some people like to just not look at that as something as great as it is, but 27 points and 19 rebounds is not something an average player can do. I think it's something you really have to take into consideration. He can shoot and he's big. So I want to see him get minutes next to Bam. There's also Marcus Garrett and DJ Stewart, who I actually think has the potential and upside that I really want to see us explore. And I feel like we have a lot of potential in our summer league lineup, and I feel like we should give at least 2 spots, maybe 3. And we already have Gabe and Stru, so it's like it's a lot of spots that can be filled by these players with so much potential. And we found Duncan, and we found Gabe, and we found Stru, and we found Nunn through this process of our last 2 to 3 spots. So it's not useless spots. It's spots that can turn into the likes of Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson. I mean, I really feel like it's time that UD joins the coaching staff instead of being on the player roster side of things. I think he has a lot of use in that area. I just don't think that he should be someone that takes up our roster spots.
Right. You know, Like I said, it's kind of I see both sides of the argument. It's definitely kind of something that you can't go wrong with either decision. Like I said, it's all based on what UD wants and what the Heat wants. Everything that UD has done for this team, I feel like, if he wants to be back as a player, then he will be back. And if he wants to step away, then he will. So it's all based on what UD wants to do. But aside from that, is there anything else we should hit on while we're still here?
I think we're good. We've touched on everything we needed to touch on.
So with that being said, are we ready to close it out or?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
we're just interested to see the remaining moves the Miami makes, and we'll talk then.
That's right. So without further ado, then, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Heat versus the World podcast, a Miami Heat NBA podcast that's not for everyone. We'll see you guys very soon with another episode. Big shout outs to Quake for coming on a few minutes into it. Make sure to follow him at _Earthquake3. And make sure to follow the Heat vs. the World account at Heat vs. the World _ on Twitter as well. And we'll see you guys next time with a brand new episode. We out.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time with a brand new episode of the Heat versus the World podcast.